Oh, there we go.
Well, hey, everybody, this is the November System Administration Special Interest Group. We don't have an agenda, so we're just kind of winging it at the moment. And so, Daniel, why don't you ask your question again?
I was just wondering if anybody has gone over to the new build. Is it 2205?
Mm-hmm.
And how you feel about it? Any sysadmin issues or just issues in general, or any new sparkling new features that you love? And just how's it going?
We are an early adopter, and we're also live on it right now. We haven't run into any huge problems. There are some things. One thing that CERC staff brought to me last night was when you have items that are long lost overdue and they're still in your catalog, and the patron comes back, brings it back and turns it in, we accept them back at that point because they're still in our catalog. And normally when you would check it in, it would automatically remove the fees associated with the replacement cost of those materials. And at least it's not doing that for us. So I've got an open ticket on that. We've had a couple of display issues. If you use images, cover images from Syndetics, you will now be able to see those on the staff interface, which is nice because you can see DVD covers and like if you use another vendor, like we use Playaway, and so we can see our Playaways and our launch pads and all of those things. That's kind of neat and nice. Jason, you have it on your test site?
Yeah, I haven't dug into it too much. I dug through the notes a little bit, and I'm trying to pull up my list. I'm rendering a video right now in the background, so everything is just, my computer's gonna blow up soon. So once I get back to that list, I'll figure out. Well, I mean, I can say I guess sysadmin wise, I know there's two new notices. So there's the welcome email notice and the password reset notice. So there's new templates for those that need set up if you want to change what the defaults are. What else?
There is a really cool feature that they did the Monday minutes on. I think it was this week. In reports, if you've got a report that includes a borrower number, an item number, a bib number, or I think a barcode, those will be automatically, they'll have links on them, and you can automatically like go to the patron record right from the report. You can check out right from the report. I think
it links to their checkout page. I think like one of them links to their details view and one links to their checkout page.
Yeah. So some nice quicker ways to get to things. And I know previously we'd used a lot of like, is it the concat statements to get a link in the report? Well, this makes it so you don't really have to do that, and it looks really nice, and it's just,
and it exports cleanly.
It's real nice.
If you're concatenating, you get that chunk of HTML in your Excel file, but now it doesn't do that. You just get the borrower number or whatever. So that's really handy.
Yeah, I heard about that, and I'm really looking forward to it because some of our material handlers really hate the HTML, but they really like having that link there in the report. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be really nice.
A couple other report things. So they've added styling to the report ID when you run it, so it's not as confusing, because before it was like a number in parentheses, and sometimes people thought that was the number of results. But now it's got a little like CSS to it, so it's pretty obvious it's a report ID. They also grouped the editor buttons together. So like before they group some buttons together in that toolbar. So before you had like edit and duplicate, and I think those are in like a grouped edit button now that has a drop down. So it's a little different if you're working with reports. And I just saw that Andrew sent some emails. Haven't looked at those.
He got mixed up on the dates, and he apologizes basically.
He's giving us the month off, I see, but we're gonna do it anyways. We're here.
We're here, so. Another one we came across is on the add item page. All of the different drop-down menus, the cursor is not automatically in the drop-down. You have to go and put it there. And I think that's supposed to be fixed in like 22.05.07 or something like that. So probably by the time most people get there, I bet that'll be fixed already.
You know, I was going to ask about the notices, specifically like the password reset. Is that is that something that a user can request through the koha-opac? Or
I think it's just a staff functionality at this point. So like, because it's in the more drop down, when you pull up a patron's account in the more drop down, there's a send password reset. So I don't think it's in the opac yet, but in the opac, there's a forgot your password feature. So the patron can click that, and I think it does sort of a similar thing.
Yeah, we don't use the koha-opac, so I was wondering if it was something that we're going to have to, we can just ignore. But it sounds like if it's on the staff side, then I'll probably have to set up the notice just in case some of our circ staff get, you know, motivated to use it. So
yeah, and I mean the templates in there are fine. It's just if you want to edit anything, it's standard boilerplate. Like the staff is reset your password, please click this link to go in and reset it type thing. So
yeah, I usually get requests to pretty up our notices. So if it seems like we're going to use it, then I'll go ahead and do it. But yeah.
another sort of big one is the hold history in the opac. So patrons didn't have control over that in the past. Now they do in the privacy tab of the opac. There's a separate button to delete the holds history, separate from the checkout history, and then there's like a third button now that deletes both at the same time. I see Andrew joined us. We're just talking about the upgrade, Andrew.
We did have a problem where I'm not sure I completely understand this, but I think there's some like background jobs that run that got out of sync. So we had like on one view of a record, like in the patron record, it would maybe show it had been turned in, but if you went over to like the add item page, it still showed it was checked out. And they looked at stuff and just said that, you know, something had gotten a little bit out of sync and it all caught up. So I don't know if that was just us or whether that's, you know, a wider issue.
You know, I've been seeing that. Well, I guess it's when I do like batch modifications, I see, you know, the checked out status on a lot of items and they're not checked out. So that's been going on for a while, hasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah. And you know, if I just kicking myself, maybe I should have submitted a bug or actually looked up, seeing if there was a bug on that. So.
I think I have an open ticket for that. I'm looking for it right now, but I saw the same thing. It was checked out and available? Is that what you're seeing? Or is it something different?
The one that I'm seeing is that it's just straight checked out. But when you go into the item record itself, it's available. So,
Yeah, that's what we had.
but I've been seeing this for a while and I was just like, meh, weird koha thing. Doesn't really matter. So
So I see Andrew raised his hand and he said that the mean old host won't let him unmute. I checked the settings and it should let you, and I also made you co-host, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I can ask you to unmute. Well, has anybody played around with the ability to use the webcam directly within Koha to upload patron images? I've done that a little bit on my test server and it's like, it works, but it doesn't work. Like once you go to upload, Andrew's here, yay. Once you go to like, so it takes the picture and then when you click upload it, it errors out or something. And I wonder if it has to do with like the size of the picture it's capturing or something. I haven't had a chance to like poke around at it. I just played with it a little last week.
Now, have y'all gotten upgraded on your test sites? Is that where you're playing with it?
Except Barbara, she's in the deep end of the ocean because she's
Oh,
an
no.
early adopter.
For the stuff that's showing up in your catalogs as both available and checked out, is that old dumb data problem where it's if the item.issues field ends up with a value in it that didn't get deleted, it's that mismatch where the item number isn't in an actual entry in the issues table, but the place in the items table that's supposed to be kept in sync to remember if an item is checked out gets messed up. It's where we've seen that before, where it says both available and checked out. It's a pretty simple data mismatch. Well, I mean, like simple to see why it did that, not simple to make it stop necessarily.
yeah, I didn't see, or I haven't received any complaints from our staff about it. And I was the only one that I think was seeing it. So I was like, nah, it's not a big deal.
I did have something that was sort of along those lines, but not exactly. Just yesterday, a librarian called me and was asking about some of their transfers that were running late from their branch. And then we checked on the transfers and she said she'd already checked them in, filled the hold and checked them out to the patron. And I checked and they are checked out to the patron, but they're also still listed as a transfer that's running late. And so I don't know if that's related to that or not. But we haven't had an upgrade yet, so it's not the upgrade, but
Well, that sounds dumb. I don't think it should do that.
Actually, that sounds evil, man.
I wonder if they didn't get checked. Let's see, like my guess would be either they like didn't get checked in at the branch where they were supposed to get picked up and they just went straight from in transit to checked out to the patron. Like that'd be this like the staff error explanation that makes sense. But I wonder if Koha just failed to close that transfer when it received the hold.
yeah. And I haven't had a chance to dig into it too much yet, but it was weird.
Yeah.
I have a
Does
bug
the
on transfers, but I can't find it. I'll find it.
does the transfer take as much time to update as say like the holds queue? Because that usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes, right?
It should not. The transfer should be completed right away. The holds queue is really a singular thing in its delay, which again, like, should be going away in 2205, right?
There was my transfers bug. I don't think it's related though, but I do know that when they changed how the transfers work, so we've got that transfers to send report now, and like all the behavior sort of changed majorly. We have noticed like increased wonkiness with transfers, things that'll like transfers that'll get initiated but not completed, and then they get stuck. So they'll show up on that transfers to send report, even though they don't actually need to send anywhere. And this bug was like had to do with the modal, like when you pop up to transfer it, if you don't click any of the buttons in it, then the transfer sort of does this little toggle thing where it's like, I'm in transit, I'm out of transit, I'm in transit, I'm out of transit. So if you push the button, it always forced it back into transit. But if you didn't push the button, which is what some of my libraries are used to, it would flip back and forth and become ambiguous on how its transit status really should have been. So this bug fixes that specific problem. But that would be my guess. It's that whole like toggling of the transfer status that is giving you these weird situations.
I had something to mention. This is Christie, Monterey Public Library. So I think not many of you are in acquisitions, but there's a a new function that just came out with the EDI status. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it. I can show it to you guys. Let's see. So, can you guys see my screen? Okay, so this EDI status used to not be very accurate, or I don't even remember if it was there, but so right now this is saying not ordered when in fact it was. And I don't know if this is causing the, there's something going on with we're not getting our invoices for this particular account, and Bywater had said it's a credentials issue, but once this is ordered now, again, this is like a new function, it'll now say, I'll show you one where it's correct, where, see, I don't know what this is either. It's supposed to tell you like what day it was ordered. Oh, opened on 8/31. So EDI says it was ordered on this date. So essentially this function is supposed to work, and then invoicing is supposed to be coming in as well, because we do FTP invoicing. But again, on those baskets where it says not ordered, it doesn't seem like the functionality. There was just an issue with this when it just came out in the last upgrade. So I just want to let you guys know, again, not a lot of people in acquisitions, but thought it was a fun thing for you guys to learn about.
I think maybe that EDI status, it's meant to only be updated when the order is actually generated, and it's to let you know that although you might have created the order on one day, it wasn't transmitted until, you know, a separate date. But then I think it stays at that date. I don't think it gets updated.
Yeah, I think you're correct, but the problem is that all of the orders I usually place the same day as I create the basket. And what's happening is not all of the baskets are showing. Some of them are still saying not ordered when in fact the vendors received the order. So there's some kind of glitch. And I did open a ticket with Bywater on that. And there also may or may not be the connection that the invoices aren't being received for those orders as well. So it's just kind of a thing with the last update. Yeah, and Andrew, you're correct. They never showed the status on that before.
I'm trying to find the bug that added that. I know I have seen that bug. I'd be kind of surprised if the invoices were processing or not in any way dependent on that status. But I
No,
don't know.
my
It
fear
might be
would
tricky.
be that that status is correct and the order hasn't been properly transmitted, so therefore will the invoice come?
Christie, did you say that the vendor does have that order, that you confirm that with them?
Do you use the EDI messages function where you can actually see the status of the order the old way?
Hmm.
We haven't noticed a problem with it, but as I said, we don't think invoices are related in any way.
Put a bug in the chat that this is another sort of sysadmin thing that's exciting that's coming in 2205. Automatic age by like the automatic age tool can use different fields now, so not just accession date. So we can do a lot of automation, a lot more automation with that. So I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, that should be really fun. There's the EDI status bug. New in 2111.
So sorry, I was muted when I was talking to you guys. So I do use the edifact messages to answer your question. I was deleting those once the order was sent through to the vendor, but Kyle had said with this new functionality that if I deleted those messages after submission, that functionality would not work. It reverts back to saying not ordered. So he wanted me to keep all of those in our system till the end of the fiscal year, in which case I can contact Bywater and they could do like a batch deletion, because right now you can only delete one at a time, which is very time consuming. So I thought that was kind of strange too, that I did just keep them all in the queue till the end of the fiscal year for that functionality to work. And then I haven't seen the bug that Andrew posted.
So the bug that I posted is just the one that added that field to that page, that made that status visible on the basket page. I am not a coder, but I can sometimes muddle through some code, and this looks like it is just checking the status of the basket. I don't see anything here that should impact invoices, and it really does seem like it's just looking over at that EDI messages table. So if you look at this same order in the EDI messages table, is it still there, and what does it show for a status there?
So some of them still say processing, which is weird because again, that's for the invoices, sorry. The orders say sent. So they're all in sent status, and the invoices that I haven't received still say processing. But again, it's only on 2 of my account, same vendor. That I can show you guys. So, so see, for some of them, they're getting received, orders are all sent, but like for this, like this Brodart Trust, that they're still in processing, but I've confirmed with the vendor that the EDI invoices have been posted. So it's, yeah, I'm not sure why they're stuck, but again, Bywater said it's a credentialing problem, which I'm not as familiar with. Andrew, I don't know if you know what that means, but anyhow.
I don't specifically know what that means. My best guess would be that it's something with the credentials you're using to get into the FTP site. But if you've grabbed the invoice, like if the invoice has made it into Koha, you obviously connected to the FTP. So I don't know what other credentials would come into play there.
Okay. Thank
Huh.
you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, all I could do is look at this and agree that it's doing something wrong. Yeah, that doesn't match up.
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
Sure. Oh, looking back at my notes from last month's meeting, somebody asked if transfers get canceled when a hold is canceled. If you have an item that's in transit from one branch to another to fill a hold, and while it's making that progress, the hold gets canceled, what happens to the transfer? So I went back and tested this after we met last time, and that transfer does not get canceled. Koha just leaves it there. It continues to try to cancel or transfer that item. Somebody suggested that they thought automatic item return might play into how that plays out, how Koha handles that transferred, that canceled hold with a transfer. It has no impact. It just sort of transfers the item, and then the item is at that new branch with no reason to be there. There is a revert transit status button. So really, I guess in that case, you want to go to the bib and revert the transit status and then cancel the hold to keep your book from getting lost, which is kind of messy.
Yeah, that's a lot of steps.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen too much that holds get canceled while a book is in transit. But yeah.
I think the way we handle that is the book just shows up, it gets checked in like normal, and then it tells it to send it back. And then it goes in transit back to wherever it's supposed to be.
There's another bug. Actually, Andrew was working on it for me before he left Bywater. He was helping out, but again, it's acquisitions, and it was a matter of when we get. I put a bug in for it, and apparently Bywater is working on something like it, but it seems like easy script to write for all of the Koha community, and it's a matter of when you order items, if you have a full mark record already in your system and you don't want the batch item records that come in to override or overlay those records rather, it would look at the leader on each mark record and decide, is this a complete record or an incomplete record? And then it would override if it was incomplete, or not override or overlay rather, if it was complete. And apparently other ILS systems utilize this, but I just wanted to let everyone know that as an acquisitions person, it's been frustrating because we've had to set up, not just myself, but other libraries have had to set up separate accounts with vendors for those that are like added items. So we get sent records that will not or we don't get sent the records, rather, we just get sent the item record to add to our ILS. But anyway, it's in the works, and I put kind of a detailed description of how it might be solved.
Would now I'm just sorry, going back to transfers, I was just wondering, would there be any benefit, or would this sound interesting if an item was in transfer for a certain amount of time, it'd be set to missing? Would that be an interesting or useful enhancement?
Actually, I think the thing that Jason linked above, the new automatic item modification by age values, might let you do that. I'm not sure though. Christie, I just put a second bug into the chat that is very related to your bug. It's also about how batch import to order workflows work when you're matching bibs up to existing bibs. I hope you can hear the great weariness in my voice on the entire topic, because it's a mess.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So Jason's thing says lets you make modifications based on date fields in the record other than data sessioned. I can't remember if there is. No, there's not a transfer date in there.
No, it's just date last seen, date last borrowed, damaged on item, and lost on, withdrawn on, and then replacement price date. So I don't think you could do that yet, but it could be added.
Yeah, automatic age item modification by age could get so cool.
It's already getting cooler by the minute, by the version something.
I know there's a bug out there somewhere that would let you match on blanks, like match to where collection code is null, and also like set things to blanks and nulls, which would be another nice move. Because right now there's no way to say like anything that's in the new collection after 3 months, put it in no collection if you just don't use collection codes. But that doesn't help with the idea of automatically marking lost things that have been in transit for a long time. Which I could see some sense to that, and wouldn't be too hard, I don't think.
I think Bob's right though, when we have some of those that they get canceled in transit and then they're in that limbo stage. But when you do check in the book, I think it corrects itself. And then like Andrew, you mentioned there's the revert status, but yeah, it's sometimes you can't change it. Like one time I checked in a book and it triggered the hold. And so it was in transit, but then I realized that it was an item that the laydown date was not quite there yet. And I'm like, oh darn, I triggered this hold. So I did cancel the hold, but the item remained in transit. But then Andrew, you said I probably could have reverted that.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I like to leave them in transit because it's accurate. That is literally in transit. So I don't ever revert that. I mean, that's good information to have.
The problem, I think the biggest problem we run into is like, it gets put into transit, the whole gets transferred, but it doesn't actually get where it's going. And then when you check it in, it still wants to go where it's going. So you have to go in and cancel the transfer from like the transfers to receive report or something, or send it so that it can come back, get checked in at the other library and come back, which is excessively unneeded. So yeah, it's a messy situation for us.
I've also found that it causes some problems with libraries who are trying to clean up their transfers to receive. And we've had some issues with the courier and things getting lost. And so they're trying to clean that up, but there's a lot of things they can't check in. And it gets kind of frustrating for them to not be able to clear those things off that are lost for a long time. So it would be helpful to move them to a lost status so they're not still on the report.
I just can't think of a good way to automate that, marking things lost. I mean, unless you want to get real silly and like take things that are in transit for a long time and check them out to a card with an old due date and then let the long overdue. No, that's all silly.
No, you would need like a way to batch cancel the transfer and then batch add the item based on date, right? So like you're looking at things that have a sent date but no receive date. You have to target those and then mark them lost. I mean, you could do that with a report and batch item modification, but they still have those transfers hanging out. So if you want the status to fully change, you would have to resolve the transfer somehow.
Does anyone, kind of along those lines, does anyone have an efficient way of working with holds that have not been pulled from the shelf that have been canceled? So again, they're kind of in limbo. So what we do right now is we have to look at it, you know, with our own eyes and say, okay, which dates have already expired and pull these books. But does anyone else have an easier way to do that?
I mean, you could totally get Koha to give you a list of the holds that it canceled each morning. I assume these are the things that get canceled automatically because they've been waiting for too long.
It could, well, it's usually people that go to like the help desk and say, oh, we don't want this anymore. Can you cancel the hold? And then a staff member cancels it, but forgets to pull the book off the shelf.
Even then, I mean, you could get Koha to email you every morning a list of all the holds that were waiting and got canceled in the previous 24 hours, and that would tell you what you need to get off the list, off the shelf. And that could include both the stuff canceled by the cron and things that were canceled manually by staff.
Okay, so through a report.
Yeah, I think it would be your best option.
Okay, thanks.
Probably something that looks at the holds logs to see when the status changed.
There's not a way to batch canceled transfers, is there?
That'd be a reasonable thing to put on that transfers to receive page, though, if that list of transfers gave you like checkboxes to batch cancel them.
Yeah, maybe I'll do a bug.
We just don't transfer stuff that much around here. Juliet pasted a fancy report.
I was trying to explain it in the chat, and then I thought I should probably say, I wanted it to tell me who was canceling the hold, whether it was a patron or if it was automatically canceled or if it was done at the self-check. So it's got some of those in there. And then it also just gives me the information that's on the hold slip, the 5 digits of their library card number, because then they can just look at that without having to see the whole thing. So it's a little longer than it might need to be for others. And nobody uses it at my library, even though I made it for them.
I always appreciate the time to do something fancy like casing the user field to make it into something someone can read.
I have a separate, different question that someone asked me today. If you keep a history of checkouts for the patron, is there any way to prevent the staff seeing them? This library feel the patron's reading history is their own personal affair, but I don't know any way to hide them.
Yes and no.
Maybe jQuery.
Like you can flip the, what's it, intranet reading history system preference that says, don't let staff see reading history. And that will remove the reading history link on the patron record. But that's all it removes. Like they can still go to a report and say, select all from old issues where patron equals so-and-so.
Okay.
And they could still get that out of action logs.
Yeah, well, that's what I felt. The only, they were worrying about data protection, but if we store the information, it's.
If you turned off your circ logs and anonymized all your borrowing history immediately and set Koha to delete the statistics table right away. Yeah, that'd mostly do it. And you could turn on pseudonymization to replace the statistics table with something that would give you that same data without identifiable patrons.
Yeah, but then the patron won't see it.
That's true.
So.
Yeah.
No, well, thank you anyway. I just thought I'd put it out there in case there was something I didn't know. It's quite a niche requirement anyway, so I think I'll just tell them, no, you can't have it.
Doesn't feel like it should be that niche though. That's sort of the best we can do is make it a little bit difficult for staff to see this information.
Mm.
We're cheating here. We've got Aspen for our public catalog, and it stores reading history for patrons in a place that staff can't get to it. And then we can just let patrons look at that and we clean out Koha.
Yeah, well, that's probably the way to go, actually. Thank you.
I had a question sort of related to reading history. A patron asked me just this week if it was possible to have the system warn them that they've checked out something before, because they don't want to check it out again if they've already read it. I'm not aware of any settings like that. Does anybody know of anything?
I think the system preferences check previous checkout, and then there's a setting on the patron categories, and then there's a setting on the patron themselves.
So what does it do when they try and check something out that they've already checked before? Like,
check
And it's
prev
gonna
check.
show us.
It pops up a little message that says this patron has checked this thing out before. I don't think it will show on any self-check.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, so not on the self-check, but if staff was checking them out, they would get some kind of a notice,
Yeah.
I guess.
Can I remember? Oh, yeah. Got the barcode right. Okay, so we'll check that out and check it in.
And then check it out.
Oops. Patron has previously checked this out.
Amazing. Okay, so tell me where that setting was again.
It's just in system preferences, check prev checkout.
Okay. I'm gonna yell with it.
And you can tell it to only look back a certain period of time. You can tell it to only look at certain patron categories. It does depend on the old issues table. So if people are anonymizing their checkout history, then this does not know what they've checked out before.
Okay.
And you can also set it individually on each patron account.
Oh
It's
yeah, I forgot about
under
that.
Library management, and then check for previous checkouts.
Okay, that might be better than turning it on for everybody. I'm looking at.
I don't know how easy it would be to turn it on as a global opt-in,
Yeah.
but it's probably doable.
Okay, where do I find it to do it for an individual?
You have to set the first system preference to something. It's weird. Let me see if I can figure it out. Or Michael might know because he's played with it.
I don't remember what the system preference is, but I can show you where it is on the patron account. It's right here under library management, and then check for previous checkouts. And I have that set to yes if settings allow it.
Mine looks very different. Hang on.
It
I
looks
don't
like
think
the,
that shows up until you set the system preference though.
I
Okay.
think-
it looks like
yeah.
the
Oh,
system
okay.
preference lets you choose whether you want it to be overridden by the patron's preference or not.
So if we set the system preference to unless overridden by patron category, do not check previous borrower checkout history. And then can we go to a patron and get particular?
This would come in really handy for our homebound patrons too.
Yeah, for sure. That is, homebound is the one that it always makes the most sense to me for. Okay, so I set, go away. I set this to unless overridden, do not. So now in Henry's account, I do have check for previous checkouts inherited from settings, but then I could say, yes, do it for Henry, even though it's off for everybody else.
Okay. Great.
And then I think I could set it that at the patron category level as well. I could say like, for staff members generally turn it on unless I've told you otherwise, but for everybody else, leave it off.
So the patrons will be able to see this as well, once it's turned on?
I don't believe so. I think that only shows to staff at point of checkout. I mean, patrons would still be able to see their list of stuff they've checked out, but like if they're going to the self-check machine, I don't think that's got any way to tell them this is a book you've had before.
Right.
So there's a way for patrons when they go in their account to see all of their checkouts? Okay.
Christie, are you using the Koha opac or do you have some other public catalog?
Koha opac.
Let me give you the like, reading history is such a like an onion to unpeel forever, but back in admin. You turn on opac reading history to allow. And then each of your individual patron categories is going to have a privacy setting that needs to be set to either forever or default for that reading history to get saved in the first place. So then I go back to, I'm not used to this new interface yet. If I go back to Henry, I think his privacy is not enabled. Well, maybe it is. Yeah, we're keeping a reading history for him. I could set this to let him turn it off on the opac. Basically, you have to tell Koha whether or not to save it and whether or not you give your patrons the ability to stop it from saving it. But then if that's getting retained when they log into the opac, see, I'm logged in as Henry here. He's got his checkout history visible. And then there's a whole bunch of settings of like, how long do you want to keep that? Again, do you want people to be able to opt out of it, or do you just want it all enough for everybody? 1,000 choices.
Thank you.
Sure.
It looks like you can like block previous or block a checkout on a previous checkout on the SIP. So there must be a way for the SIP to see that too. I don't know how, but I'm assuming there's a way to send that message to your self checkouts. So then they would be
Probably.
able to see it there, or other places that would be able to see SIP. But I'm only just learning about that. So
Sounds like another development.
Yeah, because I think when you block a checkout on the SIP, it's because it has just checked, you know, your circumfine rules. I'm not sure it goes looking at system preferences.
Oh, hey, here's a bug that was pushed to 2105 that looks like it enables check previous checkout for SIP checkouts.
Oh,
Now, I'm not sure from this how much messaging that really gives you. No, even the test plan does say one of the steps that you should check the SIP message is the item was previously checked out. So yeah, that seems like that would work. Neat. I always hate when I look at some bug that I don't think I've ever seen before and then I find my name on it. Well, as Anne has departed, it is 11 o'clock. So I guess we could go. Thanks for inviting me to this impromptu meeting of the SIG I theoretically run. Apologies for totally dropping the ball. I had this filed in my brain as like, it's a thing that happens in the later half of the month. I don't have to worry about it for a while. So I'm gonna run away too. Goodbye.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone. Have a great
everyone.
Thank you,
week.
Thanks,
Andrew.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Yep. See you next month.